So I'm going to read you a little, you could call it a story. It's called A Guide to Strange Fiction. Everybody settled in? Okay. I was going to read a story tonight, but the story that I was going to read never got written. I'm lazy. No, I'm not lazy. I tried. At least it never became something that I thought I would like to read in this venue. All of the concepts are there, and someday it might make a good story, but for now I feel I should be honest to you and admit that something seems inherently hokey about it. I will start with the surreal ending, which is based on a dream a friend of mine had where he was a zookeeper who fell in love with a mysterious woman at night, and it turned out that that woman was a river otter, and the two of them swam away into the night trying to escape the nets of his fellow zookeepers. I imagined my friend transformed into a caricature of the type of drug-addled thug, bro, that I used to know in high school. This character is based on a handful of people I've known over the years, white boys with rap music blaring out of their souped-up cars. I imagined him saying, "Then I found out she was a fucking river otter, bro." This was supposed to get a big laugh. It would have started with a Facebook chat after a long period of estrangement, where we found each other on Facebook. What have you been up to over the years? Oh, I fucked a river otter. The friend who had the dream, by the way, only has a cursory resemblance to this type of character. Probably none at all. In high school, he mostly just blasted flaming lips out of his car. And I've been friends with him long enough never to reduce his speech down to, "Then I found out she was a fucking river otter, bro." No, not the right guess, but...
Ben Stiller.
Nope, still wrong. You're not going to find out the name of this... All right. Some people in this room know some of the names of friends that I have. I still can't remember if he asked me not to tell people about his dream, but at this point I wouldn't ask him for fear that he might say no. In any case, the more layers of fiction I can pull over him, the easier it is for him to understand that it isn't about him. Maybe it is, maybe it was even, but maybe it is. I mean, even if it was a dream, he fucked a river otter and then ran away with her in the night. It's a strange and beautiful, but god-awfully cheesy type of subject matter, the kind of magical realism that usually makes me want to puke. That's why I couldn't write the story. I found it interesting, though, because I had been making some hilarious bestiality jokes earlier in the day. How ridiculous would it be if there was a guy who carried a ladder into the zoo just so he could try to fuck giraffes? The zookeepers would all know him, they'd let him into the zoo with his ladder, but they would clearly never let him fuck giraffes. Just thought that kind of seemed funny. Anyway, my friend told me this story while we walked his dog around the block. I think her name is Jackie. I don't remember dogs' names. He also told me an interesting story about being almost killed in a boat in a storm in Baltimore's Inner Harbor. This could make a great story, too. In fact, anything we experience can be turned into a strange story. Strange fiction. Start with anything. Start with a dream, something you saw in the news, a perverted thought you had, maybe. So this gets me to the crux of my talk. I didn't just get up here to tell you that I was going to write a story, but didn't because it didn't work like I wanted it to, or I was lazy. That is true, but I'm going to give you a bit more perspective than that. There's something in media studies called the narrative bias. And you could say that that's something like we want to turn everything into a story. But it really means that there's a big constructed narrative about everything we experience in culture. And every time somebody writes a story about it, they have to align themselves with that narrative. So if I mention Rob Ford in my talk, I didn't even ask her to do that. But if I mention Rob Ford, I'm going to display a kind of narrative bias because of who I am, that he's a fat fuck who wants to defund the arts and put all the cyclists in jail. Shut up. What this implies is that we all have a narrative about each other and about ourselves. But what narrative do I have about myself and my life that's embedded in me and everything I say, especially on a stage in front of 100 people? Well, I suppose it's got to be mostly positive. At least that's how I want my narrative to read. So it's hard to say right things I think about or dreams that might make me look bad. Some people don't have this fear, and I admire them for it, but in general, I am terrified of what people think of me. So when I write fiction, I write truth with a disguise on it, not directly about who I'm trying to write about or who I am. I also write a lot when I'm maybe mad at someone or just want to get some aggression out. I once was riding in a car with a friend of mine and later wrote a story that he was Jesus and I was God, and Jesus was annoying God by singing along with the Foghat and Skynyrd way too loud. When I look at this objectively, I come across as an arrogant piece of shit. And I totally would be to actually express that sentiment to anyone, or to compare myself to God. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek. But I've covered my own self from the spray of shit by pretending that it's just make-believe. But there's also something more honest in writing it out as fiction, because it frees me up to explore the flaws in my own thinking. I can say it wasn't me. It was this douchebag God driving the car that wanted Jesus to shut up and stop having so much fun. All of that douchebaggery I can assign to some fictional deity, and somehow that lets me shed light on my own bad feelings, and then I start to feel lighter, and I can turn up the car stereo and start singing along too. And this bird